Welcome to StratoLens. In this video, we'll be focusing on the change tracking opportunities in StratoLens. As you know, StratoLens scans your Azure environment through the scan system. You can execute this manually by clicking on the scan button. Alternatively, and more recommended, you can schedule scans to happen regularly. In this setting screen, we've got the scan scheduled to run every 4 hours, starting at 7 p.m. EST. You can adjust this to run daily. And as testing, you can do it every few minutes, though this is not recommended. Each time StratoLens scans your environment, it compares the previous snapshot to determine what changed. Inside the details of the scan system, we can see how long the scans took and any changes that were detected. In this scan, no changes were detected at all. In this scan, 1 new resource was added and 2 were modified. However, no security or advisor changes occurred. It's much easier to use the dashboard to identify changes. By default, you see the last 3 days. However, you can go back as far as 31 days to see the changes on the dashboard. In the timestamps, green indicates resources that have been added. In this scan, 8 resources were added. Red indicates deleted, and 5 indicates modified. Let's click on this to find out what occurred. A scan ran on December 11th at 2:51 p.m. The prior scan ran at noon. These are all the changes in this Azure environment between those 2 points in time. Any objects that are highlighted in orange were changed themselves. So in this case, the subscription itself had changes. We can click on the magnifying lens to find out what occurred. This tag is highlighted in green, indicating that it was added. Objects that appear in white didn't have changes themselves, but something inside them did. We can see 2 resource groups were added at this time, one of them being a demo VM resource group. We can click on the magnifying lens to see the details of that, if there were any tags added, for example. In addition, we can drill in to see each of the resources that were added. These resources are all new, therefore their color is in green. We can see all the properties that were added. Inside the StratoLens demo subscription, we'll see 3 resource groups listed. Their names are in white, meaning the resource group itself did not change, but something inside it did. Here's a public IP address. Its name is in red, indicating the entire resource was deleted. The tags and all the properties that existed prior to the deletion are listed here in red, indicating the whole thing was deleted. This network card in the same resource group was also changed. Any guesses what happened? That's right, its public IP address was detached. So the public IP address resource was deleted, and the NIC it was attached to had a modification, that modification being a disassociation of the public IP address. In the recent activity users, we can see which user executed this change. However, if we want more details, we can use Azure's activity logs or Azure's built-in change tracker. Both are ingested into StratoLens. We can click on the activity section here to see what happened. Here's the pip being deleted by the user StratoAdmin. In the changes section, we can see Azure's built-in change tracking, and we can see the deletion occurred along with an update. We can also jump to the full Activity Explorer view to see all activity that occurred in the time frame of the start and end of those 2 scan points. We can modify these manually if we want to go further back. The activity page lets us filter on the users who made changes, along with what types of changes occurred: creates, updates, deletes, actions, and RBACs. If we go further back in time, we should see a lot more details. Let's filter only to RBAC changes. These are important because we need to know when users get access to environment. Here, the contributor role was assigned to demo user 1 at this subscription level, and we can see who made the change. The same for Azure's built-in change logs. We can filter by user. For example, this is a service principal, and the type of changes. Let's see all the deletions that it's done. Looks like back on December 7th, it deleted this firewall. Some changes, such as this one, show a lot of details. We can see more than just changes between 2 points in time. For example, if we want to compare how our environment looked like on December 7th at 11 a.m. to December 18th at 1 p.m., we can see all the differences. Additions, modifications, deletions. We even see changes to management groups. For example, we can see a group, contributor demo subs, was given contributor access to our demo management group. In the Explorer view, we can see a full list of resources, management groups, and their underlying subscriptions, along with who has access to what. We can see more than just a snapshot difference for the entire environment. We can drill down into an individual resource and see the history of changes that we've detected for this one resource. For example, this demo VM. It's had 5 changes since it was originally created. By default, we're only seeing time scans where a change occurred. However, if we uncheck this box, we can see all the scans. Ones highlighted in white had a change for this, where ones that are empty did not have a change since the prior scan. Back on December 11th, something changed. The VM size went from D2S to D4S. We can click View this change to see what else changed at the same time. Looks like something changed in this resource group, an RBAC change. Demo user 2 was added with reader access. We can view this in Explorer and see the current RBACs. This is as of that snapshot time. We can jump to latest snapshot and see if they still have access. We can also view the history of this resource group, including when it was created and any changes, including the RBACs. Back to the virtual machine we were looking at previously. On December 16th, something else happened. If we drill down, we can see its power state was flipped from VM running to VM deallocated. Somebody turned it off. On the 18th, it was flipped back to running. And then later, it was turned back to deallocated. We can correlate these changes using activity and change tracking. For example, this scan ran at 1 a.m. on December 19th. So at 12:18, we detected the VM was running. And then the next day at 1 a.m., we detected it was deallocated. Let's use the changes view to see exactly what happened. StratoAdmin on December 18th at 10:43 p.m., just a few minutes after our scan, seems to have turned off the VM. And we can drill into the properties here to find out exactly what happened. Here it is, VM set to deallocated. Finally, we can use the Show History tab to see how a resource existed at a certain time. For example, remember back on the 11th, we changed the hardware profile. If we want to see what the entire Azure environment looked like on that date, we just click View at this time. And that will change the snapshot to that exact time, and then we can see our entire Azure environment and how it looked then. Back on December 7th, for example, we had a lot more stuff. Here's a virtual WAN that existed, and in the next snapshot, we deleted it. The dashboard is the most powerful way to see changes. Simply opening StratoLens and visiting the dashboard, you can immediately see what changes occurred at which different scan points in the last 3 days. Easily identify when users are making changes in your Azure environment, and then drill down to find out exactly what's changing. Finally, StratoLens has an ignored changes feature. We'll note up here 7 changes were ignored between these scans, and we can click on this to get some metrics. By default, StratoLens comes with its built-in ignore list. There's a bunch of attributes on Azure resources that aren't super meaningful. E-tag, provisioning state, and all these other attributes. We may not want to report on when those changes occur. You can customize this list yourself. You can delete existing rules, or when you're looking at an existing change, you can drill down, choose a field that has a change on it, and then choose to ignore it by clicking this little icon. You can choose to ignore for all types, so example, a field that might occur on multiple resources, or for very specific resource types, for example, just container apps. Going forward, StratoLens will no longer detect these changes. You can easily remove this rule from your list by clicking the icon again. You can show ignored to see if any ignored fields appear. In this example, we have a network security group that had some changes. If I click show ignored, we'll see the default security rules all had changes. The E-tag field has changed. This is common background noise that we don't really care about. As mentioned, these default ignore rules come out of the box, but you can remove them if you wish, or modify, add, or change them. This completes the demo of the change tracking features of StratoLens. We have a lot more features planned. Please stay up to date on our website at www.strato-lens.com.